It's not just the NBA. It seems everyone is kowtowing to China. Blizzard, Apple, even Vans. The only one standing up to China seems to be South Park? Welcome back to China Uncensored. I'm Chris Chappell. The Chinese Communist Party spent the week being very offended. Their public enemy number one? The NBA. But don't worry, the party has a much longer list of public enemies. Starting with public enemy number two, South Park. On October 2nd, South Park aired an episode called Banned in China. It was clearly creators Trey Parker and Matt Stone venting all their frustration about Hollywood and commercial self-censorship to appease the Chinese Communist Party.
Who here thought they had permission to say anything critical of Chinese politics?
Well, it is true, sir. The Chinese seem to exploit their own people with forced labor.
Shut the up, Thor!
And obviously, the show that mocked censorship in China got censored in China this week. So the South Park creators wrote this: like the NBA, we welcome the Chinese censors into our homes and into our hearts. We too love money more than freedom and democracy. Savage. Almost as savage as the NBA and South Park doing more to raise Americans' awareness about China in a week than China Uncensored has managed to do in 7 years. I'm not bitter. But now it's time for China's public enemy number three, the video game company behind World of Warcraft and the reason my college roommate failed out of school, Activision Blizzard. The company banned a professional Hearthstone player in Hong Kong for a year while forcing him to forfeit a reported $10,000 in prize money. So that was at first a confusing statement to me because I didn't know what a Hearthstone is or how much money you could make playing video games professionally. I obviously wasted my life doing some stupid show that educates people about China. Hearthstone is a free-to-play online digital collectible card game, which, judging from this image from the Free China Memes Instagram page, looks fun. Think about it. The Hearthstone player was banned for shouting "Liberate Hong Kong, revolution in our times," and Blizzard bars any players for engaging in any act that, in Blizzard's sole discretion, brings you into public disrepute, offends a portion or group of the public, or otherwise damages Blizzard's image. Clearly the player needed to be banned for supporting the people of Hong Kong because that offended an important group of the public, namely China's communist authorities. On the other hand, Blizzard may also have to ban itself because their move offended all the members of the public who support freedom in Hong Kong. There's talk of a global boycott against Blizzard. And more unity from Democrats and Republicans. Democratic Senator Ron Wyden said Blizzard showed it is willing to humiliate itself to please the Chinese Communist Party. Republican Senator Marco Rubio said, "Recognize what's happening here. People who don't live in China must either self-censor or face dismissal and suspensions. China using access to market as leverage to crush free speech globally." Wow. Reminds me of how YouTube demonetizes our Hong Kong episodes because they're not advertiser-friendly. Okay, so Blizzard might be the most hated video game company in the world right now, even more than EA. But at least Activision Blizzard successfully got out in front of this and avoided becoming public enemy number one in China, right? Well, unfortunately for Activision Blizzard, karma is a very nasty lady. Someone suggested on Reddit that it would be a shame if a character from the popular Blizzard game Overwatch became the new symbol of the Hong Kong protests. Yeah, that would be a real shame if that happened. And now on to China's public enemy number four, Apple. Hong Kong protesters came up with a crowdsourced app called HK Map Live that shows in real time the location of Hong Kong police. It also lets people know where there's cases of live fire and tear gas. The Chinese regime demanded that Apple remove what they call toxic software. Makes sense. For the Chinese regime, factual information is very toxic. What did Apple do? They removed the app, as well as the app of online media Quartz, which has been reporting a lot on the Hong Kong protests. And the latest update to the iPhone censored the Taiwan flag emoji in Hong Kong and Macau. Yeah, that'll stop dissent. Not like China's public enemy number five, though, Vans. No, Vans the shoe company. What, Do you think the Chinese Communist Party just goes around getting easily offended at everything? Every year, Vans holds what they call the Custom Culture Competition. People get to submit their own shoe designs, and the winner of an online vote gets $25,000 and their design manufactured by the brand. Well, this year, this was one of the top designs, with tens of thousands of votes, a Hong Kong protest shoe. I would buy that. Except before the contest was over, Vans announced in a Chinese and English statement on Facebook that a small number of artistic submissions have been removed. Bet you can't guess which. Honestly, it seems like Vans will let China walk all over them. And once again, in an attempt to appease the China market, Vans ends up risking the entire market from angry fans who want to boycott them. But now on to China's real public enemy number one, the Trump administration. The Trump administration has blacklisted 28 Chinese entities over abuses in Xinjiang. Those include Hikvision and Dahua Technology, two of the world's biggest makers of video surveillance products. Bet they saw that coming. A day after the blacklist was announced, the Trump administration put visa restrictions on Chinese officials involved in abuse of Muslim minorities in Xinjiang. The State Department said the visa restrictions will apply to designated Chinese government and Communist Party officials along with their families. Yes, the Trump administration, defender of China's Muslims. We are in the strangest timeline. Obviously, these new punishments by the Trump administration caused Chinese officials to realize the error of their ways. The error being, they should retaliate by restricting visas for U.S. citizens with anti-China links. A source speaking to Reuters pointed out that Beijing accuses the U.S. and other governments of inciting anti-government protests in both mainland China and Hong Kong. A 2 million person protest in Hong Kong? Totally the CIA's doing. So with these new visa restrictions, China is taking a hard stance against a problem they created themselves. And that's it for this week's China News Headlines. And now it's time for me to answer a question from you, a fan who supports China Uncensored with $1 or more per episode by contributing to the crowdfunding website Patreon. James Wahlberg asks, do the protesters know about the South Park episode denouncing companies following China's lead on the protests? Yes, they do. In fact, they've held neighborhood screenings of the South Park episode. By the way, we just got back to New York from covering the protests in Hong Kong and running away from the police shooting tear gas at us. So we were not exactly up on the new season of South Park, but we heard from you China Uncensored fans that we needed to watch it. So when we had some downtime, we did. Matcha and I had a good laugh. Check out the episode if you haven't already. It says so many things we've been saying for years, only they got way more attention for it. Thanks for your question, James. And if you have a question for me you want to hear answered on the show, sign up to join the China Uncensored 50-cent army by supporting the show with $1 or more per episode on Patreon. YouTube is demonetizing us so much we would have to shut down the show if it weren't for your support. And to everyone, thanks for watching. Once again, I'm your host, Chris Chappell. See you next time.